What is up, YouTube? Welcome to this American Gods finale video. So the war is gonna be in season 2. So if you're new to the channel, please do drop a like, please do subscribe. We just hit 4,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I am so overwhelmed with the support that you guys give this stupid little channel on a silly little corner of the internet. But American Gods has continued to be the best looking show on television, albeit it hasn't been the best show. Now, I'll explain what I mean. So this season has been very interesting. This is coming from someone who is a huge fan of the books. I absolutely loved American Gods, the book, and I was a bit skeptical as to how they were going to kind of flesh out this story, which pretty much they've got up to now. It's probably about halfway or 2/3 of the way through the book, I believe, at the moment. And how are they going to actually have the entire second season or even a third season of this show? Because really the book isn't actually that long. Funnily enough, the book is about as long as The Hobbit. And The Hobbit got 3 films. I mean, 3 Peter Jackson films. I mean, that shit's long. So it's really weird that they have actually done that and been able to get this whole season going. Now, what they've really done is they've expanded quite a lot upon this show. They have taken people like the Djinn character, as we saw in that very graphic sex scene, that he was actually able to get involved in the story. We also obviously saw Laura, who has a much bigger role this season, and it's seemingly she's been able to at least add on at least an episode, to be honest, with Mad Sweeney as well. So personally, I'm not a big fan of that story. I feel like it takes away from Shadow Moon. I know Neil Gaiman felt regret at not actually having her fleshed out. I'm sorry for the pun there. But I think that it's very much Shadow Moon's story. I mean, you read it from the kind of perspective of Shadow Moon, and this season so far has really been about everyone else. It's been about the bigger picture. So that does actually allow them to have more stories and feature more gods and more in-depth on this show. Now, this episode was interesting because we see, obviously, Kristen Chenoweth playing Easter, who, well, very interesting, and I love the way that, well, now we know him, Odin, put it and stated that, well, her whole entire kind of being has been corrupted, and as it was, misrepresented in the media, as we learn that the media took Saint Nick and took Easter and kind of done them a pretty much a bargain or a solid there and given them a better meaning in real life, which is the problem with these old gods, where they're not very applicable, they're not very current or modern. So that is why they kind of lost a lot of their followers, and media, war, like all that kind of stuff has taken over. Technical as well, Technical Boy taking over. And that is why this has happened. And it was cool seeing that and seeing so many Jesus or Jesus. I mean, they're so I think that them having so many different versions of Jesus was a bit silly. I think that what they could have actually done was have Jesus, and you could have had Jesus really, every time someone else looks at him, they see a different version of Jesus. I mean, I thought it was a bit silly having like so many versions of him, which, you know, it may be petty, but I think it was pretty stupid, to be honest. I know it might be different in the books, but it would have made a lot better sense on the TV show, to be honest. And it kind of makes that character split out across everything. It kind of makes it less of a character, in my opinion. So it's pretty much all set around them being at Easter's compound, and she doesn't want anything said about Jesus, where kind of, I like the fact that Jesus actually stole her whole kind of day. He resurrected on her day and ruined it for her, but that's kind of not true, because obviously Easter and Christmas were taken over by, they were pagan things, and Roman Christians put those days on that, and it all kind of gets a bit messy here, to be honest, in what's real and what's not. But I guess we're talking about gods and that kind of business here, so I guess, you know what, we could take that with a pinch of salt. However, it turns out that Laura was killed by, well, someone. And, well, it's not looking good that she's killed by someone who Shadow Moon is supposed to be working with and all that as well. So I expect that that is going to be a huge turn there as it goes on. And I expect that Shadow will find out and not be happy one bit. I expect that to be a plot thread moving forward. I'm not too sure how that will actually be revealed, or if that will be revealed by her or by anyone else. So Shadow is now enamored with everything. He believes in all of these gods, and well, he is sort of might be a god himself. So I'm not going to give too many spoilers there for the books, but the rest of the show will actually probably go more into depth in that, where his whole kind of who he is was left incredibly open-ended and subject to interpretation at the end of the book. So I expect Season 2 will actually have that as well. I expect that Season 2 will kind of move on to things like that, which is pretty cool. And I expect that a lot of that will be more in depth, which I think is a good idea, because the book was short and a lot of things weren't kind of, it was left up to interpretation, it was wishy-washy, it was here and there. But we know that the war is coming, the High Rock, or whatever you call it, that is where the war will be taking place, and we can see Bilquis moving forward there, and it's going to be weird. Who do we think that Bilquis will work with? Obviously she is kind of under the spell, or really in debt to Technical Boy, who gave her Tinder and gave her that phone. But will she kind of turn her back on Technical Boy, because really he's probably not actually looked after her the best way, has he, to be honest? And he's kind of really just not treated her well, which I expect it to blow up in his face massively, to be honest. I think that it will kind of not go that well for him one bit. So that's probably going to then move on to the next season as well. I think it's kind of, to be honest, I think it's open-ended who she will actually team up with, because I don't really see her teaming up with Technical Boy properly and these new gods. But I expect and hope that Season 2 will have more Crispin Glover, because Crispin Glover is absolutely awesome. I love Crispin Glover, especially in this show. He's incredibly creepy as well, which is cool. And I expect that the war, we will probably have more kind of posturing next season, as well as these sides get more people on their team. So that is it for this video. Please do drop a like, please do subscribe, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.